3, 2, 1. Hey everybody, it's me, Ethan, and this is my best friend of all time, David Marino. I've known him basically since we were born. He stole my due date.
You stole my due date?
Yeah, but he stole mine first. I was supposed to be born June 17th. He came out June 17th, so I was born June 19th, and we've been friends ever since then. Dave is currently in grad school, about to graduate with a master's in
school counseling.
School counseling. So he's been learning for years about the kinds of stuff that I talk about somewhat uneducatedly a lot. So today I wanted to ask him some questions about addiction. And I have my first question written out here.
Official napkin.
Yeah. Dave, how would you define addiction?
I would define addiction as...
Can you start over but louder?
I would define addiction as an unwilling action that a person is, well, more or less kind of bound to, so not necessarily by their choice. So when you are addicted to, I mean, let's just go really shallow. Say like, oh, I'm so addicted to pizza, like I just have to, I just have to have it. But if you were truly addicted to pizza, like every time you would smell it, like you would have to eat it. Because addiction is such a wide, it's such like an all-encompassing term. Like it's kind of broad, but it can be super specific. People talk about, I'm so addicted to the internet, or I'm addicted to this, or addicted to that. Like people kind of throw it out there, kind of like mental illness terms. But if you are truly addicted to something, it's almost like you do not have a choice. Remember those nicotine commercials or those cigarette commercials where it's like that little tiny dude like drags the boy out of the porch while he's like practicing band, and he's like, nope, like now we need to do this. That's kind of what addiction is you don't get a choice in whether you partake in what you do or not. You don't get a choice whether you shoot up, you don't get a choice whether you drink or anything like that. Like addiction is almost an all-encompassing, inhibiting process that you go through.
And how does it start? How do people become addicts?
Ooh, that is another big general question. You have to view it as like a holistic view. So like
whoops.
People become addicted for a variety of different reasons. I mean, it can be family situation, worldview, socioeconomics. I mean, there are a bunch of factors that go into addiction in general. I like to come from the point where the individual is struggling and whatever they're coping with at the moment, or like, people get stressed. When you get stressed, you have to do something to kind of take care of it. When a person is stressed, they have all of their coping skills like at the ready, kind of like in their inventory. And you can kind of pick and choose and see, okay, like this coping skill works for this, or this coping skill does not work for this, I'm not going to use that. When you are overstressed, sometimes you have to make a new coping skill or make a new coping strategy in order to deal with the situation that you're in. So one example would be, as a student, whether you have a test to study for or like a huge project that you want to do, a healthy coping skill would be to sit down and knock it out and do your studying and do all of your work to get there. An unhealthy coping skill would be, I'm going to go on Facebook and I'm going to avoid, I'm going to go out with my friends and I'm going to procrastinate and do this because I'm nervous and I'm not ready for it. So that would be an unhealthy mechanism. Okay. So when we go into addictions, again, overstressing. You are overstressed to the point where you have to make a new coping skill. You have to assess and make a new coping strategy. And instead of a healthy one, people use substance or internet or pornography or what have you.
So when you use the word addiction in this case, it's an inability to choose the healthy coping mechanism?
An inability to choose the healthy mechanism over the unhealthy mechanism.
Right.
Some people are predispositioned, like genetically predispositioned to choose ones over the others. And what I mean by that is genetically, like alcoholism is genetic. It's a hereditary condition that you can have. If a person never drinks alcohol, they will never know that they have it. But if they do, it was described as it just clicked. Like once that person had the alcohol in their system, it was like, this is what I've been missing. Like everything just kind of came into place. And that person had a history of alcoholism in their family. So addiction in this process this is something that I absolutely need to get by. And without it, I'm in shambles.
Okay, I'll ask one more. And also try to be a little louder if you can.
Sorry.
So real quickly, what would you say to someone struggling with an addiction? Real quick advice for beating any kind of addiction.
I think what I would say is you need to realize that it's going to be probably the toughest process that you go through. It's the toughest process that you go through because you have to reteach yourself like how to choose something over what you've already chosen. And a lot of that comes with, well, you will relapse. Like this is not something like cold turkey is something that is so rare. It's so nice when it happens, but if you go into it knowing that you will relapse, you are setting yourself up, I think, for a realistic view of the recovery process.
And then setting yourself up for success then if you have realistic expectations.
True, and the challenge is to not I am gonna fail, so why even try? Versus, I am going to try and I could succeed, but failure is going to be in my path, but I will pick myself up and keep going.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dave.
You bet.
I'm gonna have Dave on the podcast soon as I get my podcasting mics in tomorrow. Next time I'm with Dave, we're gonna sit down and do half hour, 45 minutes talk on this topic because there's so much more we could talk about. We had to kind of rush it to fit it all in here. So keep your eyes out for that podcast if this is something that interests you. Otherwise, thanks again, Dave. I love you. I'll talk to you later.
Good.
That was great.
Yeah.